Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. And my thoughts are, it's been an incredibly long weekend. And I'm not just talking about Good Friday, Easter Sunday, Easter Monday coming up. The amount of boxing that's been on, I mean, like I said, these are some of the weekends I hate from a perspective of, trying to cover things and doing shows and wrap-ups and segments, especially trying to keep it within a decent time frame because there's just so much to talk about. So without really getting into any major stuff that happened on Friday, obviously there was a Showbox card on which was headlined by Sinead Bunch and Brian Flores. It also had Jaye Brown on there against Guido Schramm and Raul Garcia versus Robert Terry, I think his name is. Yeah, Robert Terry. And this is arguably the first time I've ever seen a card where all of the quote-unquote prospects, like the guys that are being pushed, actually lose the fights. Well, except for, I guess, Raul Garcia and Robert Terry. That one ended up being a majority decision draw. But yeah, Jaye Brown lost on majority decision and Sinead Bunch lost on split decision as well. So yeah, I mean, I guess those prospects are gonna have to go back to the drawing board and figure out kind of what's next for them or how to bounce back. I mean, obviously it's not the end of the road, but it's just very weird where all of your top prospects or the prospects that you're putting on your show, like all of them fail to deliver. So yeah, going from there, next we had the, which one to even start with? Let's start with Top Rank. I think that's probably the easiest one to kind of start with. Now, I've watched all the fights, but I haven't watched all the fights in their entirety because last night was a very long night. There was 3 different cards going on simultaneously, and I was kind of flitting in and out between each one. Like I had DAZN on the phone, I had ESPN on the TV. I was trying to use my other phone for the Showtime card, but ultimately I said, I'm just gonna have to wait and watch that one in the morning, which I did earlier on. So yeah, let's talk about ESPN. Ultimately, I don't remember the name of the Polish guy that started the event that sort of we was watching, but I think he was fighting, is it Brian Harper, the black guy with the braids? Fight itself didn't look like anything special, so yeah, kind of move on from that. I didn't watch all of Keyshawn Davis's fight in its entirety again, but I knew what was going to happen between him and Anthony Yigit. I knew that was just a nice knockout waiting to happen on his highlight reel, and pretty much that's the same. Now the fight I actually had a lot of interest in, and I was doing my best to try and watch this one as opposed to, I think at the time it was Akhmadaliev and Topples on the DAZN card. I was trying to watch this one more because this was a fight I had a lot of intrigue in. As I said in my prediction, George Arias is actually a very good opponent, and I feel like he was a good test for someone like Jared Anderson. As I said, he's a person that will kind of stay on the outside, try and box on the outside, move from the outside, but good lateral movement, good head movement. He was offsetting a huge amount of Jared Anderson's work in terms of trying to get that jab off, trying to lead with the jab. He was slipping a lot, and I think at one point he just decided, you know what, rather than try and play the outside game, let me just see if I can catch this guy unaware. So he started bringing in some looping left hooks, some of which caught Jared, others didn't quite. He did some fairly decent work on the inside as well, but ultimately Jared has the athletic background and obviously he's got those fundamentals locked in as well. He just started to eventually just break apart and pick apart Arias from the outside to the mid-range, stepped on the inside, started investing in the body a little bit, and at that point Arias just started trying to swing Hail Mary shots. He caught Arias a couple times in the third round. Some really good sort of looping shots, some stiff jabs. I think a right hand got in there as well, and a left cross, and the bell went. Arias, it looked like he was happy, ready to go on. He had a little cut over his eyes, nose started to get busted up a bit, so I guess the corner felt like the writing was on the wall. Arias wanted to come out. He was like, "No, I'm good. Let me get another round in." But the corner waved it off, and Anderson takes out another guy, inside of 4 rounds. And this one is definitely, in my opinion, the best opponent he's faced. I guess previously you would have said that Alexander Teslenko should have been his best opponent, but he just destroyed Teslenko to the point he hasn't been back since. And then you say, well, look, Jerry Forrest is a solid level, like, maybe not a gatekeeper or a high level journeyman, if you want to call him that, because he's been in there with the likes of Zilai Zhang and Michael Hunter twice, Jermaine Franklin, Kubrat Pulev, and even though he's not had an official win from any of those fights, there's several fights where you could argue that he actually did win that, and the fact he got draws actually meant that he won, and ran some of the others extremely close as well. So that was supposed to be a good test, but Jared Anderson stepped up to the mark yet again, just proving that he is a problem, and he is definitely one to watch. Like, I still don't feel like he's ready for the upper echelon guys, but he doesn't need to be. He's young enough whereby just keep applying that trade, keep learning that craft, and then it's literally, as far as I'm concerned, gonna be him, Jalalov, and Torres as like the next big crop of heavyweights, to basically reign and rule over the division. That's literally how I see it. There's not really anyone outside that I can actually put into that category with them yet in terms of that sort of next crop. I'm just waiting for the moment sort of he gets let off onto maybe like one of the top 15 guys, and I'm sure that's got to be coming next. So like a Daniel Dubois, a Luis Ortiz, Joseph Parker. I'd actually like to see Jared Anderson fight Michael Hunter for his next fight. I think that would be a brilliant fight, and that will properly test exactly where he is at present. And obviously Michael's been calling out for big fights, quite consistently. To me, that would be, I feel like it would be a big fight. It'll get very well paid for it. And yeah, we're just kind of seeing, obviously, if he can take Anderson's scalp, that leads him straight back up to the top of most of the divisional rankings, because Anderson is looked at in the ascendancy, and I'm pretty sure he will be cracking the top 10 on the pound for pound heavyweight list fairly soon, because people like Luis Ortiz and Joseph Parker, their spots ain't secure, and they kind of need to make way for some of the newer guys. Even a Hrgovic probably isn't that strong, considering his previous performance, and the guy that he beat is actually fighting again before him. So, but yeah, moving on to the main event. Now, I said Shakur Stevenson was going to basically dominate either aggressively on the inside, or if he felt something, he was going to dominate on the outside. I said that going to 135 might actually bring out some of his man strength and his stopping power, but I said that it would probably come the fight after this one. This one would just be the one where he's getting used to the weight. Nope. He decided we ain't about to play games. He took out Yoshino in 6 rounds, and he never dropped Yoshino. He never really wobbled him or had him taking standing 8 counts or anything, but it was just a consistent beating for 6 rounds, to the point where the ref was like, he's taking way too much shots, especially to the head, taking them clean, they're accurate, they're timed well, and they're clearly hard enough for you to take note. Now we gotta stop this one, and the ref called it off. Now, me personally, I don't know. I don't know if I would agree with him stopping it how he did, because obviously Ishino was still, trying to trade back. He was still answering the shots, but I guess from a safety perspective of, you're no longer in this fight. You're not, for the next 6 rounds, you're not going to do anything that's going to change the tide. You've not ran him close in any particular round yet. Maybe I'm saving you for another day. Possibly look at it that way. I mean, I don't have any huge arguments about the stoppage, but yeah, I mean, welcome to the lightweight division, Shakur Stevenson. And considering I do think Devin Haney is moving up after the Lomachenko fight, I can't see him sticking around much longer. I don't think his body will let him. Yeah, I can see Shakur taking over, reigning, and then eventually when he moves up to sort of 140 or 147, him and Devin can get their match on about. I reckon they'll face each other around the welterweight times. So, but yeah, it was a punch perfect performance from Shakur Stevenson. Alright, if we move over real quick to the Matchroom card now. This card, I can't lie, from the before the bell segment all the way through to the main event, like the card was stacked with fun fights. There was no like standout marquee names or anything like that, but every fight was competitive, and every fight was a fight that made you say, I'm not 100% sure who wins. Even the ones that you say, okay, well, the favorite is obviously the A-side guy, but that is one thing I like about Matchroom cards, is even the cash cows to a degree, they don't get like easy touches in that sense. Like every fight is there's always room for error, there's room for risk. There's not a lot of other organizations or promotional companies that will put their A-sides in those kind of risks unless it's like a final eliminator or it's a world title shot. No, Matchroom just throw you in and say it's either you're good enough to win or you're not. So if we go, not really going to talk too much about the undercard. Well, I say the before the bell part, except for Khalil. I've been high on Khalil for a little while. Especially since he signed to Matchroom to make his debut, but I'd known a little bit about him before that. I'd heard rumors about him. I'd seen some of his amateur pedigree. I liked his style, and ultimately I still like his style. He's had obviously some issues and troubles at the start of his pro career, but he looks to have kind of worked a lot of those out at the moment. I think he's considering potentially moving down to 168 at one point, but to be honest, I mean, I'm quite happy to see him remain at light heavyweight. And his stoppage on the weekend, obviously I know it was a last minute opponent, James Quita, but look, the stoppage was brutal. It's probably one of the best short uppercuts I've seen in a while. And the way Quita went down, it was like, yeah, the ref did the absolute right thing to not even try and count him, because even when Quita came raised up off the ground, his whole body was still like convulsing as he was raising up. Like he couldn't, there was no bearings there at all. Khalil's got power, he's had power. If he just like really believes and commits to his game, I expect big things for him moving up. Mark Castro, again, another credible solid performance from him. He was fighting Ricardo Lopez Torres, got him out of there in, I think it was the 9th round? It was was it the 9th? What was it? It was I think it was it was an 8th rounder, sorry. Got him out of there in the 7th round. So, yeah, just at one point you thought he gassed himself out. Nope, back on it, bang. Barrage of punches, referee jumps in, said, yeah, too much, let's save you for another day. So, good up to him. And then I guess the star of the before the bell segment was Israel Madrimov against Rafael Igbakwe. Yeah, so I predicted on Madrimov to get the KO in this fight, especially, looking at Igbakwe. All I saw was basically his previous fight was 2 years ago, and it resulted in a knockout loss. So I said, okay, been out of the ring 2 years, knocked out in your last one, probably spirited effort, but by the time you get to this one, you're not really gonna achieve much. However, this was fought at 160, which is Igbakwe's weight. Madrimov is a 154 guy. but he fought this one at the weight of 160, just I guess because he's been out of the ring for a little while, and the size difference between the two was very visible. So was the skill and talent level. Madrimov, like his footwork, his movement, placement, punch selection was all near perfect, but Igbakwe is tough as hell, and just would not give up, would not quit, would not yield, and he made Madrimov work through his fair share of punches, got in on the trenches, salvos throughout at the end of the rounds, just to show, no, you're not having it all your own way. And just even every time you thought he was about to get wobbled or go down, he would take the punch, he'd shake it off, and he'd come back firing, or he'd go into a clinch, and then start to try and do a little bit of work on the inside. It was just a great fight to watch. Obviously, like I said, you could tell the skill levels were, very, very different between the two. And maybe if Igbakwe was a natural 154-pounder, natural like Madrimov, he may not have been able to survive the damage that he was taking. But we heard before the fight that he was the toughest guy in the gym, like that, with what is it? I think it's Ben Bennett, who trains Regis Prograis as well, and they say like he's the toughest guy in the gym. He takes shots and keeps coming forward. I agree. Igbakwe, like phenomenal chin. So yeah, that was probably my favorite fight of the card, if I'm totally honest. Right, then we had Thomas Matisse against Ramiros Casino. And I think the biggest talking point in this one is everyone's talking about the stoppage. Now, if you look at things in a spectrum of just black and white, it was a premature stoppage, which meant it was a bad stoppage. No way to dress that up. Cecina was clearly winning the fight. Yeah, he'd been wobbled a few times at that point, but he was still coherent enough. He was still trying to fire back in between salvos, and he had a high guard up, was blocking a lot of the shots that was being thrown at him by Matisse. That being said, he did take a couple of heavy ones within the salvo, and I guess the ref just thought, like if you take one more of these, you've already wobbled twice in this moment, maybe it's time to call it off. Now, I disagree. I think it was premature. I think there was like a minute 20 seconds left of the round, so you can't say, oh, that was only 10 seconds, just let him see it out. But give him an opportunity to, maybe if he takes a knee, or see how this plays out, because again, most of the shots were being blocked. It's not like he took 15 and 20 unanswered shots with his hands by his side. Like, he was blocking a lot of them, so I can see why he's aggrieved, and I wouldn't blame him. But I don't put that stoppage on the same level as the Howard Foster stoppage from last week. This one you could maybe make a bit more of an argument because it was in the 10th round, and then you say there's a minute 40 left, you're taking damage now, shipping punishment, you've just gone 10 rounds. Like, maybe, you err on the side of caution in that sense. Whereas obviously the other one, 4th round, hardly took anything clean before that shot. Wasn't taking much clean within the salvo. So yeah, different scenarios, but I definitely agree that it wasn't a great stoppage. And again, that's maybe something that needs to be looked at moving forward. Right, Ray Ford against Jesse Magdaleno. Now, I watched it. Again, a lot of these fights I was watching in and out, but Ray Ford's a special talent. He had some moments earlier on where he was kind of wondering, is he actually gonna, be that guy that we really know and respect, and we really think he's gonna reach his potential? I definitely think he will. He pretty much was, I won't say punch perfect, but he was near enough as perfect as he needed to be against Magdaleno. I reckon he won pretty much every round I was watching. I didn't score it properly because, again, my attention was divided between two different fights. But yeah, the ceiling is high. I don't think he's ready for world titles yet. I think another 3 or 4 fights, or maybe another year, maybe another 14 months of development. Get those extra rounds in, a little more tutelage, keep stepping up that ladder, and he's definitely going to be a danger in that featherweight division. So yeah, big things for him. Then we had MJ Akhmadaliev against Marlon Tapales. And yeah, look, I actually think that the right person won the fight. I predicted that Akhmadaliev, well, actually, I didn't actually give a prediction on this one, but I thought he was going to win. Not easily, but I thought it would be like I thought it'd be like a UD decision. And yeah, he didn't do enough in the first half of the fight, basically. Let a good chunk of the first half get away from him, and then, lost enough of the back half that even though he dominated the rounds, I think from round 9 to round 12, there was just too much ambiguity between some of the other rounds that he just didn't do enough in or didn't clean up. So mandatory, lost both his belts in that. I know Eddie said he's going to try and petition the WBA to make him the mandatory moving forward because he believes he won, but sorry, them belts are gone. I don't know if he's maybe got any deal with Tapales to maybe try and keep him on Matchroom and maybe do something like that, so you can either run it back with him or have Tapales against like, Inoue or Fulton or something like that. But hey, otherwise, MJ's just, I guess he's just let the team down basically, and we'll see what happens moving forward. I guarantee if that, if he doesn't get that rematch to get those belts back, I don't think you're going to see Akhmadaliev on any Matchroom cards moving forward. I know how Eddie operates, and I definitely see that being the case if that rematch can't be made. But we'll see. Right, so then moving to the main event, Bam Rodriguez against Christian Gonzalez. Now, I thought Bam would get the knockout in this, I'm not going to lie. I thought he would take a little while to figure out Christian, how his movement, how he reacts to things. But the first half of the fight, in my opinion, Bam was very poor. That 7-8 months out the ring, as much as he said he needed that break, I feel like it actually regressed him back a bit. He was getting hit way more than he needed to be. Even though Christian was doing the back foot boxing as opposed to being in the pocket, maybe where Bam thought he was going to be. So I can maybe understand parts of why, he was moving the way he was moving, but he was just getting caught with a lot of stuff. He was getting turned as well. So if this was like, say, a prelude to, for instance, a Sonny Edwards fight, Bam's not winning. He's getting picked apart all night. And the fact that Sonny can do that back foot box and move all night long, we've seen it. He's got the gas tank to be able to do that. So like, unless you work better on finding out how you're going to cutting off the ring better, doing those same pivots that you was doing to Quadras and Rong Versailles and and those kind of situations, unless you can figure all of that out, like you're not gonna win that fight. Now, credit to him, because I guess he was maybe thinking Gonzalez would take it to him a bit more to create more openings, and he did get his jaw broken in the 6th round. I was actually kept rewinding for the 6th round to see if I could find out which shot it was that done it, but yeah, he kept moving forward. He didn't really let it affect him too tough, which I got to commend him for, and it was a very clear victory for him. It just wasn't the performance that maybe he needed, considering he had this massive chip on his shoulder from people saying that his last performance wasn't that great. And now I guess maybe you're saying, well, does he only look good against the aging past it fighters, or can he actually compete with the guys that are also in their prime? Food for thought. Not really sure how that one, how we assess that one. A couple other announcements obviously were made on that card, which you had Edgar Berlanga's opponent was announced, being Jason Quigley, for June I think it's the 23rd, and then you had June 3rd, Clarissa Shields versus Hannah Gabriels 2. Now, I'm going to save my takes on those for a separate video, which will be out tomorrow. So please make sure you tune in for that, as well as some other talk. But yeah, moving swiftly on. Going to go over to the Showtime PBC card. I'm not even going to talk about Brandon Lee against Pedro Campa. I thought Brandon Lee would get the KO. He didn't. Went 10 hard rounds. And I guess that's how you can tell the clear divide between when someone fights for Top Rank and when they fight for PBC, because guys that top ranked fighters clean out, PBC guys, okay, don't necessarily go life and death, but they go life and death with, and that's very telling. So yeah, moving on. Sebastian Fundora versus Brian Mendoza. Now, I said Sebastian is not going to use his height and reach. He's not going to basically keep and use his attributes and keep to a game plan that will, ensure his safety. He's going to get up close, and Brian, being a tough guy, is basically gonna use that to his advantage, and he's gonna make it a very troublesome night for Sebastian. And I predicted Sebastian would win by maybe a split decision, but it was definitely going to be a decision. I didn't see him being able to knock out Brian Mendoza. Now, I didn't know Mendoza was trained by Ishmael Salas. I'm not gonna lie. I never really took notice of his corner before. I did on this one. When I saw that, I said, oh, this could be different to what I was thinking. And yeah, just every time that they was on the inside and Fundora wasn't keeping him at the end of the jab or trying to keep that distance, you could see that, yeah, Fundora was getting on top, but Brian was actually managing some of that distance well, and he was exchanging and looping certain shots, and some were connecting slightly, some were slightly missing, but the danger was always there. And then ultimately you had Fundora tried to go in for one of his trademark uppercuts, got hit with a looping left, bang, wobbled him long before the uppercut was anywhere near to Brian Mendoza. Mendoza stepped back, assessed the damage, saw that Fundora was wobbled, ran in, big overhand right to the jaw, left hook on the way down, and Fundora falls, bangs his head. Game over. Now the ref, to his credit, I know why he was counting, because obviously Fundora's up, he's kind of looking at him, but then when he gets to 7, he's just like, I can't. So the ref counts him, 8, 9, 10, it's over. First knockout defeat, and to be honest, it was coming, because as much as he's got that big size advantage, because he doesn't use it enough, his opponents are always going to have a much smaller, a much shorter distance to target than he's going to have. Just smaller arms, smaller bodies, smaller torsos, and if you're not staying tall, you're basically playing into their hands. It doesn't keep his, and you would think for someone as tall as that, his chin would actually stay further tucked down because he's having to look at his opponents, but it still rises up from time to time. But personally, I think 154, like, I know he's slim, but he should at least be, I think he should at least be at 168. Absolute minimum 160. I mean, he's 6'6", 168. Fill out the body, work on your long distance game, and I'm sure you have a lot more success. But I just feel like he's probably draining himself down to 154. So his punch resistance has never been great. Anytime he's got hit by anyone halfway decent, Lubin, Mendoza, even the fight he had with Garcia, you could tell that, like, every time he kind of got hit, it didn't look good. Like, the reaction didn't look good. Maybe that's just because there's not enough on the body. Stripping it all down to that 154 frame isn't really the one. But look, ultimately, Brian Mendoza is now taking his interim WBC title. I don't know if there was a rematch clause in that. I would assume there may be, but he, I guess, now would be the next in line for Jermell Charlo. But the good news would be, because he's essentially taken that title, I think Fundora was acknowledged as the mandatory. Mendoza won't immediately be called the mandatory. So outside of the Tim Tszyu fight for Charlo, he'd have to do Israel Madrimov, but maybe that WBC one could be held off. So after that, after the Madrimov fight, he would be free to take a voluntary. That's if he sticks around. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play out, but look, it is what it is. Last but not least, I need to give an absolute special mention to Izzy Adesanya, because for him to go back, rematch Pereira after getting beat by him in the, as a kickboxer, getting brutally knocked out by him in the first fight in the UFC, coming back, running it back immediately, and yeah, finishing that fight emphatically in the second round. playing possum at the side of the cage, you know, letting Pereira think he had him, Pereira not thinking about defense, dig into the body, you know, even trying to throw a knee in there, and Izzy just overhand right, bang, side of the face, wobbles him, hits him again, bang, straight down on the floor. Even though the guy's out cold, he's not moving, but he's like, I don't care. The ref's over there, he ain't close to me right now. Hammer fist, boom. And then the ref jumps in, and yeah, his joy and elation after that was a thing of beauty. And that goes to show, like, you can get knocked down, but it's how you get up. And he proved that warrior's heart, that warrior spirit, and any mental scars he may have had from those previous 2 fights immediately eradicated. And you can just tell the kind of mentality he's got, just by the fact of he was prepared to run it back from the same guy that's knocked him out twice, and he didn't hesitate to go back in there to right those wrongs. So yeah, big ups and big respect to him. Right, I'm gonna leave it there. I apologize, this video is probably way too long, but it was a long weekend. I hope you watch, and if you do, I appreciate it. As always, please like and subscribe. I'll put out a video tomorrow because it is bank holiday, and yeah, we'll see where we go from there. But that's the weekend wrapped up. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.